can certainly see where that decision is coming from. But let's quickly talk about MVP for game number 1. Or in fact, no, let's just get into game number 2. Let's look at the draft here. We got a Zoe, but this time it's coming out from Yagao. We get Yagao's old Zoe. We even saw a ban on the Shaco after game number 1. More Trundle coming through as well. This is another exciting draft here from JDG.
Yeah, and we were talking about the Graves in game 1 being one of the favorites of both of these junglers, and Beishang picking it up for game 2. We're gonna get to see how that functions. Also, a really great pick into Trundle overall if it does end up being Trundle jungle. Gwen and Trundle both flexible, so not sure on that one yet. But either one should be vulnerable to this Graves in terms of pure jungle matchup.
And hey, we said we wanted to see some Orianna, right? We said that that was a pick that we think the WE mid laner could use. I was talking about Mole specifically, but hey, it works for Shanks as well. They do bring the Orianna out so they can play a more classic style. Does feel very front to back on the side of WE, whereas JDG, I feel like a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more playmaking ability on their side when it comes to things like that Zoe. And, you know, everyone talks about Mole when it comes to Zoe. Everyone talks about Knight, but Yagao has a monster Zoe as well. This guy is a beast. And he's going to go for a level 1 bubble. It's Elk being caught out here. Loken and LvMao can follow up. LvMao going to look for the hook. Flashed away from, but that's both summoners at level 1 gone for Elk.
Absolutely disastrous to lose both of these summoners into the Kalista Nautilus lane here. And 100% agree with you on the Yagao Zoe. I mean, when I started watching this guy, the way Peter Dunn talked to me about this guy was that he was a Zoe LeBlanc 2-trick. And now we're going to get to see the Zoe come out again into a matchup that is generally considered favorable in the early game.
Yeah, does feel like Yagao should have a lot of freedom to do whatever he wants. And it's not just about the mid lane matchup either, right? It's about how much you can influence the side lanes, get out of that mid lane. One of the big strengths of the Zoe is just that you can push out the mid lane against most matchups so that you can just get roaming elsewhere on the map, get control of the river. And we'll go for the spellbook and the teleport, something we see very often in competitive. And a good little ward clear from JDG there as well, as they're going to have massive prio in this bottom side since Elk has no summoners and missing. Feels the brunt of that in a trade.
And this lane is definitely going to be Kalista Nautilus sided with the summoners being down for Elk. It's just going to be about when JDG decides to pull the trigger on that all in. Yeah, something to talk about is the Trundle being flexed top lane. We mentioned it in draft.
Yep.
It's a pretty good mind game from JDG. You pick Trundle, which baits WE into picking the Graves, and then the response to that is then sending the Trundle top, the Gwen jungle, and suddenly the Graves no longer has that super easy matchup.
And also on top of that, like it's Zoom. He loves playing these tanks. He loves these kinds of matchups, so it's going to be good for him as another trade on the bottom side in favor of JDG. But also, Zoom, I'd imagine this Trundle has a pretty good matchup into the Lee Sin, right? You can interrupt all of his jumps with your pillar. You can just chomp him to remove his AD when you're going for these trades. It feels like Lee Sin is going to have a hard time in that top side.
Yeah, it's a very skill-heavy matchup. You normally don't consider Trundle matchups to be skill-heavy, but like you said, being able to cancel out Lee Sin's Q and Lee Sin's W can win or lose a fight. It can insta-burn a flash if you get a good pillar in lane. And Lee Sin also nerfed, we have to discuss on 11.13 here. So on this patch, there is no longer a super insane E scaling for Lee Sin. We still see the pick, but is nowhere as strong as it was during MSI in the first half of this split.
Yep, still strong, but not to the same category. And quite often we're seeing it more in the jungle these days, honestly, at least in LPL, than we've been seeing it in solo lanes. But Breathe was one of the premier Lee Sins, right? Pre-MSI, we saw Breathe spamming Lee Sin in that top side. We saw him dominating with it as well. So excited to see what he can do. Certainly we've seen solo laners in the LPL just as capable when it comes to the Lee Sin mechanics as what we've seen from junglers. Plenty of insects available to be seen. Dive at the bottom side here, though, Dom. We've got a Kalista, and we've got a Gwen coming in as well. TP being channeled here. Both mid laners coming in, missing the target with Aftershock. Still goes down to the Ren. LvMao barely survives, but survive he does. And now playing the top side as well. Beishang trying to close the gap onto Zoom. He doesn't even have to flash.
And Zoom walking up there to potentially cancel a TP. Didn't want his teammates to get TP'd on during this dive. And it ends up going the way of JDG. Zoom getting zoned away from topside, though. Looks like he's going to miss quite a few minions here. Most likely be forced to TP back topside.
Yeah, I think he's happy to accept that trade, though, honestly. Like, yeah, you do fall behind individually, but you're getting your bot lane ahead, right? You're getting Loken ahead, and now, actually, Yagao's moving over. The bubble not quite going to land, thanks to that W and the pillar just being such a nuisance. I want random little mini interaction as well. You can actually use the pillar to give Zoe slightly longer bubbles, because if the pillar's next to a wall, the bubble can go through the pillar and the wall, so you can always help your Zoe out there. It's a very, very unique interaction. I don't think you see it much, but it does count as that terrain that the Zoe bubble can travel through. Kanavi finds an opportunity, though, to invade on that bottom side while all the shenanigans going off elsewhere. Missing knows he can't do anything. LvMao just wanders around and hits him with an anchor.
Man, mid is just support diff, let's be honest. How do you play the game after this? The mental edge gained by stopping that recall, it's immeasurable.
Well, to be fair, also a minion wave is going to be missed here. Like, it's not even just a mental edge, it's a physical edge. There's no TP available. Shanks still had to recall because he had no mana, so it's actually going to be pretty nice in the side of Yagao as he gets to go for the free recall, gets to crash a wave. Nicely done by LvMao. And now on this bottom side, we're going to start to see a difference between the AD carries, right? Boots finished for Kalista. It's so crucial in the early game, getting that extra leap range, getting the extra attack speed to be able to just stack up those spears for the end. Really, really nice situation for JDG to be in, and it means when it comes to Dragon, they're fully in control.
Yeah, definitely. And you can see that the strategy of JDG was altered by the fact that Kalista was able to burn both summoners of Aphelios bot lane, making a pretty bad trade right now.
Able to trade it back with the Rend in the end, so it looked a lot worse than it was at the end of things. I'm guessing Missing must have just caught onto Loken, maybe got a CC off. He looks for a little bit more, but won't be able to find it for now. Beishang is on this bottom side of the map right now. Was looking at his Krugs, but they've already been taken. Kanavi got those. We saw that on the camera just a minute or so ago. Missing gets to push up aggressively. We're talking about the Drake. Graves very keen on doing the Drakes early himself, and is very capable. As Beishang looks for a dive here, Loken could be in trouble. It looks like it's just going to be plates here. White weapon available for Elk, and that means these plates will be shredded.
Chakram being available there is actually super good. One thing to highlight here is that Kanavi was sitting at the Drake ready to do it, to play off the Kalista pressure bot lane. But because of that trade from WE, that play was no longer available. So the Kalista kind of losing some value due to that mistaken lane. Kanavi invading onto blue, though.
Kanavi just 1v1ing with Breathe. I feel like Kanavi is one of the few junglers that is just more than happy to take a 1v1 with solo laners. It's so rare that you see someone this confident, but he has no fear. He knew his solo laners were on the way, and Beishang gets an opportunity to get onto the Drake himself. Obviously, the bot lane is going to be pushing up, but it doesn't really matter too much with the jungler up on the top side. Kanavi will take the Gromp as his reward, as well as being able to get that blue buff. So Beishang, not over the moon with that trade, to be honest. Like Graves, you generally want to be power farming, and he's starting to fall behind in that regard.
Yeah, and I don't think it really hurts that Kanavi is playing the Gwen and taking those 1v1s. Pretty busted champion,
Yeah. True.
So that's the type of champion where I think you'd opt into them more than most junglers.
And true with the Shaco as well in game one, right? Like, with the Hail of Blades, you're quite happy to go for fights. And speak of the devil, Breathe in trouble, kicks Kanavi underneath the tower while he's tanking as well. That was a nice little kick from Breathe. And it does mean that the play can't continue from the side of JDG, but they bought themselves enough space to be able to try and brute force this Herald. I'm surprised that sweep wasn't used just to clear the waterway that we saw get placed down, but I suppose it doesn't matter too much. You can see WE backing away. They're going to move back to the bot side. This will just be a Herald taken by JDG. Possibly could slam that up to the top side. I mean, you can take that wherever you want on the map, but maybe playing through Loken could be the answer.
And even though they weren't able to secure the Dragon with the Kalista pressure, they were able to use this roam timer in order to secure the Herald. That being said, we'll see if Aphelios can trade another plate onto bot side here.
Yeah, he's going to try anyway, as Beishang and Missing going to cut off the route through the jungle to answer this bottom lane tower, but I don't know if they really have the strength to be able to go for a dive right now. Shank's TP is about to come up. Breathe's TP is available, but I think Beishang just wants to use this pressure to steal away the blue buff to answer what Kanavi was able to steal on the top side of the map. LvMao is here, as is Loken. And this wave will be picked up by Loken, which is crucial because that was about 2 waves there. Beishang gets a smite away from Kanavi. Gets out. So the steals that we talked about earlier are going to be equalized in the end by Beishang.
Yeah, and I thought it was really funny how Loken was sitting at his tier 2, just letting LvMao farm the wave, sitting there for Kalista ult in case they ended up going for the dive. They do end up collecting most of the wave, so it doesn't end up being that detrimental of a rotation from JDG onto the top side there.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, after game number 1 of this series, after what we saw at the end of the first series of the day, it's been a bit of a slow start, but LvMao knows it too as he starts a fight off. Ignite onto Missing Fate's goal to pull his support to safety. I wasn't sure if they'd go for a re-engage there. We all know how aggressive LvMao likes to be. Kanavi moving down to the bottom side here. Loken threatening onto Elk. Halo Blades coming back up. This is an opportunity here as JDG move in. Beishang finishes the recall, but the wave is going to be cleared by the Infernum. And that should be enough to stop the dive in its tracks.
And it was so crucial that Aphelios had the Infernum up right there. Without it, there's a potential of the Rift Herald being spawned on bot side by Kanavi, which could have resulted in quite a few plates going down.
Yep, so they don't get it for now at least. That
Plate
plate
denied.
is actually just going to fall off. Nobody gets it. So gold robbed away from JDG here as Shanks, perhaps with an opportunity onto Yagao. Doesn't go for the shockwave though. Just going to get a good trade for himself. It's been a very slow-paced early game, so let's talk compositions again, Dom. Let's talk what... Oh, hang on. See, that's the trick. I'm just going to ask you to do analysis, and immediately everyone will fight. Every single time.
Perfect.
I get interrupted here.
Ask me again, ask me
Kanavi's
again.
in trouble. Yeah, I think we need to talk about the compositions. Beishang, trying to talk about the composition? No, it's not working. I don't think he's listening anymore.
No, but...
So, but yeah, let's talk mid-game. But how do these teams expect to play here?
So I definitely think that the fact that this is a slower paced game is an advantage for WE here with the Orianna and Aphelios. They should have no problem scaling into this game. Zoe doesn't scale terribly, not as well as Orianna though. And Kalista obviously wants to get things going early on. So even though Loken did get that kill early, it doesn't seem like he's that far ahead of Elk here. Herald spawned mid though.
Yeah, so this should be, well, I think it'll just be a couple of plays here. I don't think they can really push for anything more, but at least it's shared between the mid laner and the jungler. Even if Kanavi got solo gold there, though, I think Gwen is one of the junglers where you're quite happy for the jungle to get on the plate gold. You're more than happy to get the gold onto a Gwen. And I definitely agree on the Zoe point about scaling as well. I think it's one of those champions that, in terms of damage, it's not like she falls off late game. It's just everyone gets tankier. And like things like the Thresh, to be honest, there's not really anything that can tank super well on the side of WE, but Lee Sin, once he's got Starix and stuff, they can't be one-shot by the bubbles. And so it becomes far more difficult later on in the game to find these opportunities where you can just one-shot a squishy carry and have that impact that you want to see from a Zoe.
Definitely. I think as the game goes on, though, Kanavi is going to be really strong into this type of composition. Only one melee that can reliably get inside Gwen's W here, and we're looking at the wall. Oh, wait, no. Never mind.
Zerv is drunk.
I thought a dragon was going to come out of that like side right there over the cliff into the game, but no, guess not.
Yeah, no. I was getting excited there as well. I think Observer just fell over. I hope they're all right. I hope we can get a medic into the production room. Dragon started off here, second one of the game. And remember, we got a Kalista, so if Loken can get some autos in, this should be reasonably easy to secure for the side of JDG, but it looks like WE aren't even going to bother contesting this one. They understand they can't fight right now, and so it will just be Kanavi moving in, Yagao giving a little bit of damage to help out, but realistically, nothing going to happen here from WE. And remember, JDG already 1-0 up in this series, and it's going to be an important series for both of these two teams, because when you look in the standings, both have had a bit of a rough start to this split, right? Where we've got JDG 5-3, which, you know, when this is a team that did well at the World Championship, this is a team that was in both finals back in 2020. You expect a little bit better off the squad. And 5-3. They're on a 2-win streak, though. WE as well, 9th place, 4-3. With Mole coming in, people were hyped about the squad, but it's not really been working as much as people were hoping.
Yeah, and if they do end up playing Shanks in the long run, then that's just time lost at the beginning of the split, trying to make something work that didn't. Kind of reminds me of what JDG had going on last season, or last split as well, where they brought over GA from LGD, and it just didn't seem to work out. It felt like they just played better with Yagao every single time they ran him in the lineup. Just to talk about that dragon really quick, JDG did end up securing it, but I feel like, number one, it's a Cloud, so Cloud Soul not going to matter too much throughout the game, but also getting your first dragon with the Kalista comp at like 13, 14 minutes pretty much eliminates that win condition, because if you do end up getting the soul, you're most likely already falling off with everything else.
Beishang's caught, taken down, wards onto the lantern, denies everything. Nicely done there by JDG. Easy pickup.
Specifically,
you might as
LvMao
well just
played that
continue
really
your
well.
point.
Yeah, no, LvMao played that really well there. He chained the CC beautifully. Started with the ulti into the auto attack into the Q to CC for as long as possible, not allowing Beishang to take the lantern there.
All right, here we go. Do we get a dive? Kanavi positioning, stealing the Grok. Oh, the Krug, sorry, I can't see. Control ward though, he's going to be spotted out. He's just going to have to dash away. Wave was cleared. And I have to say, we've had very hot and cold games today, haven't we, Dom? Because we've had some games that were just absolutely mental the entire time. We've also had a few games that were just like nothing for the first 20 minutes, and then it all kicks off. And I'm certainly hoping that at least it'll fall into that category of it'll all kick off after 20 minutes. But so far, very slow and steady game from both of the teams. It doesn't feel like either is confident to push their advantage too hard, really.
Yeah, and I think that this is more on JDG not pulling the trigger, because they're the ones with all the agency to make things happen in the early portion of this game. Zoe bubbles, they have Trundle pillar, pretty much CC in all three lanes to set up potential ganks. On the side of WE though, with the Graves jungle, it's not as easy to make your own plays, especially when you consider that the place that has the best setup, the Thresh lane, is playing into a Kalista, where Fate's Call can pretty much negate your engage. So definitely think that JDG could have pushed this advantage more than they did. Looks like they're going to get mid-tier 1 here, though. Not able to be defended by Shanks.
Oh, it's a bubble onto Shanks, though. Maybe an opportunity. Half of his health gone. He has to flash. Shockwave, though, comes out to LvMao. And a return kill. In fact, not even a return kill, just a singular kill in favor of WE. Trading for the tower, though. Now an opportunity for WE to get some control of this map. They can start to look in the mid lane. Nice little bubble from Yagao.
Oh,
and
God.
Oh, he goes golden, and it's Loken that gets caught instead to play on both. But now the answer, they went too deep. But guess what? There's a Gwen in the game. Beishang's in trouble as he gets chased down, snipped through in the needles. Finish him off. It's 2 for 1, 2 for 2. I'm not even sure. I've lost track of everything at this point. But JDG went out the fight.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to watch that again, but I'm pretty sure that Elk took a lantern from missing into the whole enemy team under turret there. I mean, how else does Aphelios end up in this position? So we're gonna have to get a replay to verify that that's actually what happened. But pretty rough there from WE. You'd think with that engage from missing, it was gonna be super valuable. Starts off with the bubble here. But yeah, I mean, Loken, with no regard for his support, just throws him in. And LvMao instantly dead, which made WE think they could get more aggressive. And then here's the hook that burns the stopwatch and connects onto Loken. But look at the lantern here. Look at the lantern from Elk. Oh, he's sending it. He took it straight into the enemy turret, and that is going to be a fight over as soon as you do something like that. Lordy.
I think that is maybe the most Elk play I've ever seen. My God, that was
that's a Jackie Love play.
Yeah. He's fighting for the title right here. We've got a few AD carries fighting for that title right now, because Quanfog had a couple of those moments in the first series as well. Here we go. Drake coming up in 10 seconds. Elk still has his flash available, but no heal for this one. And hopefully, the Thresh Express won't be his demise this time around. I will say, just in defense of Loken, LvMao did have to right-click his way in, so it wasn't just Loken's fault that LvMao died there. LvMao definitely opted into the dive himself. Drake going to be started off. It is warded, though. WE have vision here. Beishang can look for a steal, but Loken stacking these Rens up will make the steal very difficult for the side of WE. Here we go. Fight kicking off as well. Beishang just annihilated. And now LvMao, he's happy to tank up the damage, even if he sacrificed himself. Oh, the great kick, though. Loken caught into the shockwave as well. The combo is beautiful from WE. And now they can look to follow up as well. Zoom at a 1v1 with Breathe, but the rest of WE on their way. And Zoom dips on out of there. A great fight for WE.
And super well played by Breathe there. I mean, it looked like it was going to be a terrible fight for WE with Beishang being picked off before he was able to do anything in the fight. But not only did Breathe execute LvMao with the Lee Sin Q, he was able to find the kick onto Loken, and the chain CC of the kick into the shockwave was just perfect there.
Absolutely beautiful. And Shanks following up with the shockwave as well. We said we wanted to see this Orianna. It feels like it fits the WE style so much better, right? Having a much more supportive mid laner, allowing Beishang and Breathe and Elk to be your carries, and playing much more of a utility role in that mid lane. And Shanks does that perfectly. It's one of the reasons I like Shanks on this roster, honestly, because it feels like he can fulfill that role so well. Let's take another look at what Breathe is getting up to.
Yeah, so Breathe in the pro view, you can see that the fight starts with Beishang, but LvMao forces Zhonya's, connects the Q right out of Zhonya's. You can see he just looks for this kick. One-shots the Nautilus into the kick onto Kalista, right into the shockwave. Beautiful play from Breathe there, able to execute flawlessly with the Lee Sin mechanics.
And there was, Loken just had no idea that was even happening. He was there trying to protect LvMao. He was like, okay, LvMao's in trouble. I gotta save my support, but no. Breathe had other ideas. He was looking at a different target and able to get the wall jump into the kick onto Loken. And importantly, that wasn't even a flash, right? That was just a wall jump to get that kick. So nicely done. And onto a Kalista, such a highly mobile carry. Very difficult to be able to pull that off. So nicely done. Bit of subversion as he pretended he was threatening a different member. JDG, but now we're in a very even state of the game. Gold almost exactly even, kills almost even. And we've got a Cloud Drake as well. So it does feel like we might be in for the long haul on this.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, WE heating up here, so it looked like they're in a pretty good position. Even though Elk ended up taking that Lantern, I think he ended up kind of failing his flash in the last fight too. He is extremely strong right now, so none of that actually matters when coming into the next fight. In terms of like how strong you're going to be, this flash will be up for the next dragon most likely. I feel like WE is exactly where they want to be right now.
WE feeling pretty good. And again, we talked about it, right? The front to back from WE is pretty nice. Lee Sin can kind of start to work as almost like a tank on the front line when you've built the Sterics, when you've started to build a lot more sustain and tanky stats. Zoom could be in trouble though. Kick back, Beishang is here as well. We'll have the subjugation, but those tanky stats just not going to be anywhere near enough collateral damage and a cripple to finish him off. For a Tempest Strike, sorry. As WE now have control of the bottom side of the map. 2 minutes until that next Drake comes up, and a tier 2 is going to be on the cards. But JDG, looking at this Baron and thinking, you know what, if you guys are going to commit to a tier 2, maybe we'll answer on the other side of the map.
Yeah, and Breathe has TP here, though. Let's hope that WE doesn't make the same mistake they did last game. They actually TP early, because the Kalista will be able to secure this Baron comboed with the Smite of Kanavi. Like they're just forced to back off, though.
Nicely done by Breathe there. Kind of fakes the recall and then goes back to threaten the tower. In the meantime, WE push up the mid lane. Breathe can't do the same on the bottom side. The waves are not synchronized, so he does have to just go for the reset here. But still, that's going to be a mid lane tier 2 essentially for nothing there, right? Because JDG, they get picked apart. We saw Zoom picked off in the bottom side.
Restarting
now they're just going to rinse and repeat. They're just going to go straight onto the Baron once again. Already a quarter of the way done. And Loken is making his way over the rest of the team. Got a TP from Zoom. Here we go. JDG decide it's now or never. They've got to start to win this game. Getting the Baron down to low HP. Beishang going to be hooked up CC. There's the Baron taken. Now the fight missing. Misses everything. Full yellow star in the fight as Breathe gets a kick across the team. But nobody can follow up. There's a good shockwave. But it's 2 for 1 in favor of JDG. Beishang chased out, takedown. Elk trying to finish these members off. He has his guns. He has damage. But can he finish the kill? There's a paddle start from Yagao. The Zoe to take them all down. And JDG managed to win themselves an ace.
Really well played by JDG. They see the WE exited bot side and assume the recall and allows them to go on to the Baron. Decisive shot calling from JDG here, TPing in Zoom. And you got to look at LvMao here, zoning Beishang completely from this, knowing he has the Fate's Call to get out. And you really got to focus on Kanavi afterwards. With the ult, able to go directly onto Breathe. They kill him inside of the Nautilus ult. And Kanavi did so much damage here. Able to finish off Breathe onto Beishang. Ends up going down, but lowers Beishang's health bar so much that he's not really able to fight. And from here, it's all Yagao with the flash paddle star, Gale Force forward to finish off the Graves. And the game has swung once again with JDG in the advantage.
I'm not gonna lie. I love watching Zoe play. I know no one in Twitch chat likes Zoe. I know no one in solo queue likes Zoe. I love watching good Zoe plays because the creativity, the agency you get with this champion it's practically unmatched. There are so few champions that have the same level of freedom in play when you can pick up these abilities in the middle of the fight. Having things like the Gale Force to use when you get them in conjunction with the flashes, when you're using those dropped spells effectively, it's just it's a work of art.
Yeah, definitely. And I gotta say, you know, you called it out mid-fight, but Missing really living up to his name there. Not hitting one ability makes it pretty rough for the contest in that situation for WE.
It was a little tragic. It was a little tragic, we have to admit it. But nice sidestep from Loken as well, to be fair to him. And Loken, once again, we talked about how this guy has been limited this split on the Kalista. It's a pick that we said hadn't been working so far. He's 1-5, looking pretty good in these fights, positioning well, not getting caught out. Certainly making himself the definite decision for the mainstay on the roster over LPC. Still a question of missed. Oh, no way.
One shot.
Pure one shot. Pure one shot. What can you do? There's nothing else can do there except not get hit by the first bubble.
Oh, he's taking over.
God, another one. Oh, Yagao, what are you doing? It's too disgusting. There's another health bar gone. And now they're just pushing the mid lane.
This guy is absolutely cracked right now. Yagao Zoe has always been good, but I feel like the real progression with this player has been his ability to incorporate all these different champions into his pool this split. He's been good on pretty much everything, and before people would make this joke about how JDG would have a weak side mid, but now Yagao seems like one of the strongest parts of his team.
He really does, and it feels like they can draft towards him. Kanavi. It feels like they can draft towards him as well and set him up for success, and it feels like they're quite happy for him to be a centerpiece of this team now, instead of just playing these utility picks, instead of just occasional LeBlanc and Zoe pop-ups and nothing else working out. Now play towards the spot lane tier 2. For WE, this could be the last chance here as the pillar comes in, disrupting everyone. Missing again, misses everything. But in they go, into the fray, missing the first one to go down. You got Breathe in the back line, but everyone just jumps on top of him. What can he do? 1v4 here. Absolutely nothing is the answer, as Kanavi just taking on the rest of the squad of WE. It's 4v2 now, and Aphelios is strong. The shockwave is there, but they just can't finish the health bars off. Calibrim just out of range, but a good defense from WE. They will clear the wave. They will live to tell the tale.
And Zoe's quietly accumulated 20 stacks on that Soul Stealer. The most impressive thing about this fight for me, though, was Kanavi in the backline, essentially 1v3ing with Gwen. And they just don't seem to have a good answer to this champion on the side of WE. The only person, like we stated, that could hit him was Breathe, but Breathe was busy trying to get a kick while Kanavi was just sitting in the backline 1v3. So, yeah, I mean, this was all Kanavi here. Bubble misses. And Missing, living up to his name once again, misses the hook onto LvMao. Don't think that hook would have mattered that much because of the phase call, but as you can see here, Kanavi is unable to be hit, so they have to get inside of the Gwen W. Almost finishes off Elk too. I can't speak for a second. But yeah, almost finishes off Elk and burns his flash in the midst of that fight as well. So the next fight should be a pretty big advantage for JDG coming into this Baron and the Soul.
Especially if Yagao lands another bubble on Elk. I mean, the game just ends at that point. I'm pretty sure there's nothing Elk can do to save himself. Unless Missing has a McHale's. I haven't checked the inventories in a little bit, so it's possible that maybe that's come on through. And it's getting to the point where you think maybe Elk should have been running the cleanse instead against this Zoe, especially Yagao Zoe. Maybe this was a cleanse game at the end of things, especially after that one shot we saw earlier. But we are starting to see that Kanavi is massively ahead in that jungle role now with a full item advantage, even picking up a Dark Seal. You mentioned the 20 stacks on the Medjais for Yagao, and no McHale's to be seen from the side of WE. So if Elk gets caught, he will pretty much just die. And even if anyone blocks him, like the amount of damage Yagao has at this point, I'm not sure anyone can survive.
Yeah, definitely not. There is no McHale's yet. Speaking about the cleanse on Elk, I feel like he just decided to go for the heal for the lane phase. TB coming in from Zoom here. Looks like it should be free soul.
think Missing wanted to try and find Kanavi there, but Gwen is so hard to lock down. They decide not to go for the play after the TP comes in. That's going to be Cloud Soul for JDG. Another advantage taken, and WE, they've run out of steam. It feels like the momentum is gone. It feels like we're just watching them accept defeat right here. They've got to make a play for this Baron. They cannot let this go without a fight. Last chance saloon for WE in this series is JDG a 1-0 up and on the cusp of turning it into 2 if they can get this Baron, and it looks like the smite is just going to go down. Baron's already taken. WE are late to the plate. Sleepy Trouble Bubble goes wide. LvMao looking for the hook, flashes forward for it. Onto Beishang. Has a Zhonya's as well to keep himself safe. The fate's call to come in. Shockwave only onto 1. As Kanavi just slices them apart. They say don't run with scissors, but he's sprinting it right here. And Missing's in trouble. Jumps away, will be able to be safe here. Breathe gets 1, at least there's an answer here, but I don't think it's going to be enough with 3 going down. Loken now pushing in the mid lane. I think JDG might just close things out.
Yeah, I mean, and we have to talk about the Graves pick this game. Getting mind-gamed into thinking that he was playing against a Trundle jungle, and he hasn't really been able to affect this game at all on the Graves, which is pretty surprising for Beishang, one of the best players that we have on that champion within LPL. But yeah, this is all JDG securing the 2-0 over WE.
It certainly is. JDG take it in the end, a 2-0 in WE's home arena as well. And importantly, JDG now cementing themselves as one of the top teams in the LPL. They maintain their 6th place position. They put themselves on a 3-win streak as well. In fact, they now overtake Top Esports, who lost earlier on today. They were tied. So JDG, in fact, will go to 5th place now and maybe even tie up with FPX. I'm not sure in the win-loss there. So really, really big win in terms of the standings for JDG, and an important win moving towards playoffs, because we're talking about these mid-table teams, right? The head-to-heads are going to matter. JDG proving that they are getting better every single series.
Yeah, and versus Top, the team that you mentioned there, I believe they did actually take down that team in the beginning of this split, so owning the tiebreaker over TES going forward could be really good for them going into playoffs, especially with the format and how series work. Being able to get 1 series advantage or being 1 series advanced within playoffs is such a massive advantage when it comes to trying to get to Worlds here.
I've just done the maths. I've run the numbers, and JDG are now going to be exactly tied with FPX. They both are sat on a 14-8 record right now, so they are going to be completely tied in the standings in that 4th place spot. And it feels like the top of the table is so packed right now. You got EDG, RA, and LNG currently sat in 2nd and 3rd, by the way, which I don't think anyone was expecting coming into the split. Both of them really performing. But then we've got FPX, we've got Top Esports, we've got JDG, and then it's like BLG, OMG, WE, LGD, etc., etc. And RNG, Suning, Invictus Gaming, not even in the top 10. Like, how insane is that? It is so stacked on the top half of the bracket here. And I cannot wait to see what's going to happen as we head towards playoffs. But we have to wrap this game up first. And Kanavi, I think, earning himself an MVP on this one. The Gwen jungle, I've not been that convinced by it recently, but Kanavi showing that it can work.
Yeah, probably the best Gwen jungle that I've seen so far. Playing into the Graves, it really feels like Graves cannot play the game when it gets to these all-in fights versus the Gwen here. But yeah, JDG moving towards the top of the standings. This is a team that a lot of people have been sleeping on due to their relatively lackluster Worlds performance and Spring Split. Coming into summer, they look like they're vying for that World spot.
And WE as well, actually falling a lot in the standings off the back of this one. They're now 4-4. That pushes them out of the top 10. It pushes them with a 2-loss streak to neutral game difference as well in WE. A lot of soul searching to be done if they want to make it to playoffs. It's such an exciting time in the LPL. And you're absolutely right. I think JDG going to start to become a forerunner to make it to the top of playoffs as well, when teams like LNG on a 2-loss streak. This LNG right now are 7-2, but those 2 losses are their 2 most recent series. So it's a dicey situation up at the top of the table there, but that might not last that much longer. Teams like BLG as well, we're not really sure what to expect because they're on a 3-win streak, but they've had rough series as well. I feel like there's a lot to talk about in the LPL right now, but Yagao going to be our MVP coming out of that second game, and I think deservedly, right? I think there was an argument for Kanavi, but Yagao's Zoe is just, it's one of a kind.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he took over this game, especially in the mid game. Some of those bubbles that he landed towards the end to pick off Elk were just amazing. I mean, and this is why this guy is normally known as, you know, one of the best that we have within LPL at this champion. So I was really impressed with his gameplay, especially how he was able to push the advantage that JDG secured after that first Baron. Really ended up deserving this. And yeah, 25 stacks on a Soul Stealer for Zoe, that'll do it.
Yeah, that'll certainly help. It was the one shot on Elk that we saw. That was the part that really cemented it for me, where we literally just saw Elk evaporate in the mid lane, and then immediately got the follow-up bubble onto Shanks as well. It was like, okay, this guy's feeling himself. He had a great game. He's had a great day, honestly. I'm really impressed by Yagao recently.